Thanks for taking time to watch this video. In this video are excerpts of a webinar that we did in April or March of 2021, talking about how Rhythm Menagerie and Rhythm Cup Explorations works, and then how to adapt it to your online teaching. So the beginning of this video is about how to make this work and how to do it. Just these are suggestions that I give for getting started. If you're already using it with great results and you don't want any tweaks, that's perfectly fine. But these are just little tips that I would give to you just in general about how to use it. This is important though for you to understand how it's typically used so that you can adapt it to online teaching. So I will get to the online teaching parts, I promise. Just hang tight, take some notes, and see if this doesn't help. First of all, just a tip, just to say, in the beginning, show them how to do it. We always want to experience before we explain. We want to demonstrate before we demand that they demonstrate for us. So if we've just given them a few little pieces of exposure to half notes and quarter notes, and then we say, okay, Marjorie, can you please clap and count out loud the top line? Here I am going to watch you while you do that and evaluate whether you're doing it right. I know we don't say that, but that's how the student feels. And then suddenly they're on the spot and they have to do it and they don't have much experience. So especially when kids are young and when they don't have a lot of experience, please remember that showing them is perfectly fine. Showing them is perfectly fine. They'll get it, and you'll be able to see if they really understand by asking them to do it for you as you get further on in the unit. Always show the page though. This is not rote teaching. This is not let me clap a rhythm to you and you clap it back to me. This is rote and reading. And it's a very specific kind of teaching. I'm thinking actually about doing a whole webinar on it. If you'd be interested in that, please put a note in the chat that if you'd like to know a little bit more about how to do that and what that is. But the idea is that we're kind of treating our students a little bit, well, it's like students learn. Students, you read them books, and when they're in, when they're preschool, you start pointing to the words to show them that the words you're saying actually are represented by the words that are on the page. And so that helps prep them for actually learning to read. That's the same kind of thing with music. We want to show them the rhythm. We want to ask them questions about it. How many half notes do you see? All of those kinds of things so that they're noticing things about it. And then we help them see how to actually do it while they're looking at the page. Clapbacks are best. And when you're first introducing the rhythm, if you want to use the accompaniment to show them how fun it is, that's a great idea. But when they're first doing it, I wouldn't use the accompaniment track initially because you just don't know how fast to go. You don't know how much trouble they're going to have. And sometimes it's frustrating for a child to have these rigid tracks telling them they have to do a certain thing. And if they miss a beat, it messes them up. So just simple clapbacks, I'll show you what I mean, are really helpful. 2 measures is best. Never do a 1 measure clapback because that's not enough material. Look at the second example here on this page. You see quarter, quarter, half note. If I had clapped that to my student and asked them to clap back to me, they don't know how long that half note is. They don't know that it's not 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, who knows, right? And so you actually have to give them 2 measures for them to see when the quarter note comes in next. So 2 measures is best. And of course, you can do a 4 measure phrase, a 4 measure example if your student is able to do that. But on these initial pages, when they're just learning, 2 measures is often best. It's often enough for students who have trouble concentrating or understanding what they're doing. Keep the beat going, even if you're only doing 2 measures. So here's how I would do it in-person lessons. There's a little delay in sound in online lessons, but here's how I do it in in-person lessons. I go, okay, you're going to clap this back to me after I clap it to you. Get ready. 1, 2, here I go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Now you go. Bum, bum. And I'm cueing them with my hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Now you go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, now I go. And then you're always keeping time, and then you don't waste time because there's so much wasted time. If you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, now I want you to clap that back to me. That just took, 5 extra seconds that you didn't need to spend talking about that. And you can do so much if you're just keeping the clapbacks. It also keeps the music moving, and then they know that there's no pausing. Another thing that you can do if, especially in online lessons, if the delay in sound bothers you, but you can say an extra measure between there, especially if you feel like the student needs to get ready. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, now get ready, go. There's several things that you can say there. I'm sorry I messed it up, but now your turn, go. There's any number of things that you can say, and then you've got that extra measure to allow them to sort of prepare, center themselves, hear the one that you actually did in its completion, and then clap it back to you. Then, of course, you would do all 4 measures after they have done the 2 measure sets accurately, and then you would add the accompaniment tracks. And I'm going to tell you how to do that in online lessons in just a moment. But I want to say real quick, use whatever tempo is best. The fast track is not the goal. So if you have a student and they can do it successfully with the first track, the slow track, sure, you can challenge them to see if they can get to the medium track. But if they don't sweat it. The most important thing is that they're accurate with the rhythm. Young students need slower tempos. It's really hard for young students to do faster tempos because they have to coordinate a lot of different things, and their fine motor skills have to be coordinated in order to clap smaller movements instead of big movements. And so don't make that fast track be the goal. Make accuracy be the goal, and then let the accompaniment tracks serve them in whatever helps them to do that accuracy the best. Okay, how to teach the two-handed pages. All the previous things that we just talked about apply, except for one thing's different. Either sit beside them if you're in in-person lessons, or mirror them if you're facing them. When you mirror them, your left hand will be doing what the right hand's doing, and the right hand will be doing what the left hand's doing. Let me give you an example. Tap this with me, pretending like you're tapping on the table. And I'm going to tap up here in the air since my table's way down here. I'm going to tap with my right hand. Right, 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 left, 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 left. Now, didn't that look opposite of what you're doing? So if instead I tap with my left first and say right, 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 left, 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 that feels correct to you, doesn't it? Students know that. Students know that you should be tapping on this side, or they feel like you should be tapping on this side for your right hand and this side for your left hand because it feels the opposite to them. Sometimes that takes a little bit of getting used to. I actually do it in cups when I'm facing a group of students. I always tap with the opposite hand I want them to tap with, and it looks the right way to them. It does take some getting used to, so if you have trouble with that, there are ways to overcome this. Obviously, the first way is to sit beside them, and then they can see which hand to use. But the other way, if you're online, is you just turn this way. Right, 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 left, 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 left. And then that's correct for you, and it's correct for them, and you don't have to do this little switcheroo thing in your mind. Okay, how to teach the fun with sounds pages. Okay, couple just little tips for this. First of all, do it for them first. And this is especially my heart for introverts, because I am a serious introvert. Some people always say they're surprised to hear that, but I'm very much an introvert. And so if my teacher had asked me to beat my chest in a gorilla sound without showing me her doing it first, I would have felt a little bit conspicuous and self-conscious. But if my teacher had said, okay, Wendy, this is what we're going to do. 1 and 2. I'm sorry. Here's what we're going to do. And then she did it with me. Instead of watching me do it for her and perform for her, I would have felt much more comfortable. So do it for them first and then do it with them. And that way they never feel like it's a performance where you're evaluating them, which, you know, most of the time you are in piano lessons. It feels more like an activity you guys are sharing in and having fun with together. And the more of those kinds of activities that you can have, the more the student feels a little more like you're experiencing something enjoyable, like they're experiencing something enjoyable with you, and less like you're this authority figure that's leaning over and judging them. Okay, let's talk about how to do these things if you're online. Number one is share your screen if possible. I know that a lot of you have printed Rhythm Menagerie, and that's great. If that works for you, fine. Now our license allows you to email it to students that you directly teach. That's also fine. But if the student is turning from you to the piano where their music is, suddenly they're not seeing you anymore. So when you do something with them, they're not able to self-correct themselves because they cannot see you. If you were in-person lessons, you'd probably be doing it with them, or you'd at least do that when you're showing them how to do it. And then that would allow them to self-correct. But if they're not looking at you at all in their turn, they're never going to self-correct. So when possible, share your screen. Now, some teachers don't know how to, or either don't know how to share their screen or don't have the software to do it. So if you're just using FaceTime, I'm not sure if Skype does a screen share. I'm usually using Zoom when I'm doing things like this. And so the FaceTime lessons, you can just put like an easel or something behind you where you're showing your own print of the book, and you can do it right next to them. And that way you don't have to move your camera and things like that. So that's one way that you can overcome that. Sound delay is the issue, right? So you clap a rhythm and they don't feel like they're with you, or excuse me, you don't feel like you're with them because there's this little half second of a sound delay. So here's how we solve that. Turn them down, but don't mute them. Turn them down so that you can still hear them a little bit, but so that what they're doing is not inhibiting what you're going to be doing. You're going to be playing the accompaniment tracks from your end. You're going to be doing it with the accompaniment tracks and with them. What will happen is they're going to look like they're a half a second behind you, but you've already tested them, right? You already know that they know how to do this rhythm. If you're still in doubt, you can always go back and have them do it back to you without the accompaniment tracks and just test them. Oh, okay, yeah, I guess you do know the rhythm. That's great. And then you watch them so that the accompaniment tracks can help get the music inside of them, help feel the music, help feel the beat, but it's not necessarily what you're going to use to evaluate them when they're on Zoom lessons. So again, like I said, remember, if you've seen if you've seen them do it successfully without the music, you already know that they can do it. The tracks just get the music and the meter in them. Let me show you something now. I just hopped on a video, a Zoom call with my son, and I wanted to show you what the experience is like for the teacher, which you already know, compared to what it's like with the students. So this first part, this is a screen share of what it looked like for me. The second part is a screen share of what it looks like for the student, and you'll see a big difference. Hopefully the sound delay won't be there because that would be annoying if it were. Here we go. Okay, watch this. You can see that he's about a half second behind you, right? Or behind me. Now watch the next screen. This is his screen. He's right with you because his experience is on the receiving end. So he feels like he's exactly with you, even though you feel like there's this half second of a delay, which there is, but for him, the experience is seamless. All right, so this is just an example. This is the passiest, I call it, of all of the pages. And how can you pass online or be socially distant if you're in a classroom of students? Well, here's a couple of things that you can do. If you're online, the students, again, have the cups next to them. So this part goes like this. Bum, 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 pick up. Bum, oh, sorry. Bum, bum, pass, pick up. Bum, 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 pass, pick up. Bum, 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 bum. You could do backwards, pass, pick up, bum, bum, pass, pick up. And I actually accidentally stacked my cups, which I never should have done, but that's why it messed me up. Anyway, you can do that kind of thing, again, because the students enjoy working with more than one cup. Even though it's not with a friend, it still has this feeling of doing something dynamic with other cups, if not other friends. So putting additional cups to the left and passing to the right, kind of like that Brady Bunch effect, where it feels like you're doing something to the next frame. If you've got Zoom lessons and you've got a group lesson doing Zoom lessons, that's a really fun effect to try to achieve. Another thing that you can do, and this happened pre-COVID, but teachers would email me and say, Wendy, students would come into their lessons and their grandma would bring them. And so the grandma would sit there and read a book or would just watch, or their mom would sit there. And instead of just letting them watch, I invited them to play with us. And it was so much fun. The student and the parent were having such a good time together. And I've just heard of a lot of families actually doing this together. And so asking family members to participate in online lessons is a fun thing to do, especially if you've got sibling students and things like that. And parents sometimes are excited to do that with students. Sometimes they're very busy, so don't bother them if they are. But it's a fun thing to do as a family, and so that's one thing that you can have them do. But alternatively, you can fill in whatever thing will fit in 2 beats. That's all you need is the pass, pick up, 2 beats. So you can go 1, 2, yes, ma'am, or yes, sir. You can do 1, 2, back, front, 1, 2, back, front, or shoulder, chin, 1, 2, shoulder, chin, or 1, 2, shoulder, shoulder, 1, 2, shoulder, shoulder. My favorite, and I think this works well in a classroom when you're supposed to be 6 feet or maybe now 3 feet apart, but they can't touch each other's cups and they can't pass it. A fake pass where they go 1, 2, fake, pass, 1, 2, fake, pass. Looks really cool because they've been doing all of these movements right here, and then suddenly they're reaching in completely different places. And when they all do it in a line or as a unit, it looks really cool. So there's all kinds of things. Be creative with what they can do with that pass pickup feature, but there's lots of ways you can just fill that in. Now I'm going to give you a video sample of some students doing this. And this will give you an idea of just all the things that you can do. Notice that in a couple of these, you have students during COVID, because I have some previous ones that's pre-COVID. There's some students that have masks on, and then there are students that are doing video lessons with them. So, Zoom lessons with them. So let's watch this.
1, 2, pass, pick up. Line. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Okay. Up, down, up, pass, repeat.
Valerie Alfonso had this really simple idea to, at the beginning of her COVID lessons, she gives her students one of these plastic boxes that you can see on her piano. She puts the things that they need in there. So she gives them about 4 rhythm cups and she puts them in there. And then when it's time for them to do rhythm cups in the lesson, you know what happens, right? If you have them adjust their camera to show the table and then they have to adjust it to show their piano, suddenly how much lesson time have you lost? A crazy amount, right? So you don't want them fiddling with the camera when you finally got it on the piano and you can see them. And so what she's done to solve this is she has them just put the lid of that plastic container on her lap, and then they actually do the cup tapping on their lap, and then they have a nice loud sound that comes from tapping it on that particular thing. So I hope this was helpful. Since we've had this online webinar, we've actually come out with rhythm cup explorations, rhythm menagerie, and rhythm manipulation streaming tracks. So this makes your whole experience with tracks completely different, easy, much more enjoyable, and just really, really simple. It also makes it easy for students to get these at an affordable rate, and so that they can practice at home. So don't forget to check those out. If you have any questions, you can always visit the store to see more information about rhythm cups or rhythm menagerie or rhythm manipulations, and you can also email us from there if you have further questions. So thanks again for your interest. I really appreciate it.